Broadcasting live from Detroit, Michigan, and all around the world. The Church Militant is Mike. Here's your host, Michael Voris.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Mic'd Up, coming to you from churchmilitant.tv, our studio headquarters here in the Archdiocese, lovely Archdiocese of Detroit, in the freezing cold still. We'll keep saying this week after week, and hopefully it'll go away one day, and we'll say it's nice and warm here. In the meantime, we've got a very good show for you tonight. Many of you are aware, and you've tuned in for our discussion on Medjugorje and what's going on there, and what's the Vatican doing, and is it real? Is it a hoax? Is it a delusion? Is it really something from heaven? We're going to talk about all that with E. Michael Jones, who all of these books we have sitting out here and these pamphlets and things are just a offering of E. Michael Jones's work. He is an extraordinarily intelligent, informed, well-researched author and very devout Catholic, very concerned about the state of affairs in the world and the church. So we're going to be talking to him about Medjugorje because there has been a development at the Vatican, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. First, we want to go to Alabama. Now, many of you know I went to Notre Dame, so I'm never thrilled about doing anything with the University of Alabama, except this story. We have standing by, waiting for us here, Claire. Claire, say your last name for us because I will butcher it.
It's Chrétien.
Chrétien. Well, actually, I would have gotten it very close. So, all right. So you are president of the Alabama pro-life group, right? Okay, this is all over the internet now. It's going crazy. You guys are just a student group at the University of Alabama, Crimson Tide, all that stuff. And you, like every student group, just want to say, hey, we want to present our side of things, in particular in this case, question of abortion. Tell us what happened.
It's actually so funny. The Holy Spirit just told one of our members to walk by the display case, and as he walked by it, he discovered a university employee removing the display case, and he and I went to the administration, and
hold on 1 second. We have video of that. We're going to roll the video while you're talking. Go ahead.
I filmed the administrator from the University of Alabama telling us that our display was offensive, and because people complained, they had to take it down, and that is their policy. But the reality of it is that's not their true policy at all.
First of all, why are you getting treated like that, do you think? Just because it's the abortion message and you guys are, obviously on the correct side of it, and we know all those other people, it's the same old drill. Is that what it is?
Well, when people are confronted with photos of abortion victims, which is something that was on our poster, they become very uncomfortable. And they should. That's the normal, appropriate reaction. You should be upset when you see a butchered baby in pieces. That's a gut reaction. It's normal.
Should be. We're gonna roll your video. You guys have it queued up? We're going to roll your video so people can hear it and everything, and then you let everybody sort of see for themselves, and we'll come right back to it.
My organization had hey, how's it going? I'm Claire. I'm from Bama Students for Life, and we had oh, there it is. Yeah, that was the poster. Because we had the display case reserved through Friday.
Yeah, it's like I told you at the beginning, if we received complaints about it, we have to take it down.
Okay, what complaints were there?
The dead babies and the dead person.
Yeah, it's very sad, but is there like a guideline for what's supposed to be in the display case?
Yeah, it's online.
Okay.
No offensive or graphic material.
So
you guys were lucky to get it up there as long as you did.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was a rule.
Somebody when they first put it up, and I said if there's any complaints or if it was too graphic, it would be taken down.
Oh, okay.
The student union is for all students, so we have to kind of keep it happy for everybody.
Except us, because our thing doesn't get to be
I said when you began that if it was complaints, that it would be taken down.
Well, she's not particularly very friendly to you, Claire. I said if there were complaints, it would be taken down. Well, does that same rule apply if you put up, if the Bama for Sodomy group puts their little rainbow flag up and you guys go and complain, do they take it down? You got a double standard going on here?
That seems to be what it is. There are a lot of posters in the student center that I could arbitrarily claim are offensive to me. And in our student center last year, actually, they performed the vagina monologues, and that was totally okay. Anyone offended by that doesn't matter. So yeah, it's very much a double standard. If people are, speaking the truth about abortion, people become upset, and then they try to censor us like this. And so it's very sad, and we just want to have the same rights as every other student group to have a display case. And the university employee who we caught on video was either misinformed about the policy or lying, because the actual policy says nothing about offensive or graphic material. And who defines what is offensive or graphic?
Do you think there is look, I mean, this kind of treatment is not it certainly isn't the first time this has happened on a college campus. Mm-hmm. Probably won't be the last. But what do you think is behind this? I mean, where's academic freedom? Where's tolerance? Where's allowing all these discussions to happen? What's behind this? I mean, here you are. You're bright young lady. We had the pleasure of meeting you at the March for Life, last month, and something like this happens. What's the motive behind this for people?
It's this very diabolical culture of censorship and political correctness that has really oozed its way onto college campuses. It's on every corner of campus. That is offensive, is the rallying cry of intolerant liberals who are tolerant of everyone's position as long as that position doesn't line up with theirs. So if I say to any sort of liberal organization or administrator on campus, I'm Roman Catholic. There are many things that offend me, like you promoting sodomy or, you promoting intrinsic evils like birth control. And no one would care, to be quite honest. And that's really the attitude. There's a huge double standard. If you have a conservative point of view on campus, you're gonna get shut down. And we just showed on video what happened. Completely tried to shut us down just because we were speaking the truth about abortion, that it hurts women and kills innocent human beings.
So let me ask you, what is what's your court of appeal now? Do you have some place to go? Is that lady, is she it? Is that the Supreme Court Chief Justice, and it's over? Or do you have some place to go and complain? Go ahead.
We sent a letter to the director of the student center, and the woman on tape, I don't think that she is necessarily the one to blame. It's the bureaucratic liberal administration. It's all of it. It's not her in particular. She was probably just following orders. We sent a letter to the director of the student center, and we've given him a few days to respond. We're working with Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a law firm that protects the rights of conservative students on campus, essentially. And so we're waiting to see if the university responds to the letter and what they say, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Is there any kind of time frame you're looking at here?
They have a few days. Yeah, they have till the 17th to respond.
Do you have an outside option? Can you go to the University of Alabama? I don't know exactly what its charter is, but I'm guessing it's a fully state-run thing. So this would be government versus an individual. Government censoring free speech. Do you have an outside option to do something like that?
Oh, absolutely. And if we were to take this to court, then every single precedent is on our side. It's not going to look good for the university, especially because it's so absurd. It's a tiny picture this big, showing the reality of abortion. It's not, it shouldn't. I don't even think that it would be a question if we were to take it to court. I think that every single precedent is on our side. So, it's not looking good for the university.
So that's an option on the table for you, right?
Absolutely, but you'll have to talk to our lawyer for more information about that.
Well, hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but you know what? Sometimes these kind of big confrontations actually are exactly what's needed. A lot of time, effort, energy, and everything on your part gets to exhaustion, all of that. But, this is what the diabolical side has done for the last 50,
Absolutely.
60 years, 70 years in the culture. So,
yes, it's getting much, much worse.
What did our fearless leaders say during the 2008 campaign? If they bring a knife to the fight, you bring a gun, Mr. Obama. That's what he said. You may not remember that because I think you were probably in high school during the 2008 campaign. But yeah, that's what he said. But yeah, you got to face this stuff down. So Claire, for all of you guys, good seeing you again, even though it is electronically this time.
I like our matching St. Michael statues.
Yeah, everybody just before we were on, we established the signal. I'm like, oh look, you have your St. Michael and we have our St. Michael. So Claire, thank you very much. Give all our best to the fellow members in your club there, Bama Students for Life, and you keep fighting and let us know what's going on.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. God bless. Keep up the fight.
God bless you.
All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Medjugorje. Is it real? Are these seers alleged? Are they hoaxes? Is there something demonic going on? Is there something happening by the hand of heaven? We're going to get into all of that as soon as we come back after this commercial break. We'll be back with E. Michael Jones. Stay with us. Hi there, ChurchMilitant.tv supporters. I'm Michael Voris.
And I'm Rebecca Hasenauer.
If you or someone you know is looking to sell or buy a home or commercial property anywhere in the world, there's an amazing organization called Real Estate for Life that you should definitely check out.
Real Estate for Life generously donates an average of $1,000 to ChurchMilitant.tv every time a home sale closes.
It's a great way to support us here at CMTV. And don't forget, this comes at absolutely no cost to you.
So please call or email Real Estate for Life today. All the information you need is in the description box.
Michael Voris along with Rebecca Hasenauer for ChurchMilitant.tv. God love you.
On our new show, Losing My Religion, Father Lewis from the Fathers of Mercy helps us to understand what have been the main triggers of the Church's crisis for the last 50 years. How have so many people lost their religion so fast? What societal changes have influenced people to not regard their Catholic religion as important? Father Lewis helps us to understand what types of things to be on the lookout for to protect our friends and family, and especially our children, from the many heresies and confusions within the Church today. This 13-part series, which is available to you when you sign up for a premium account, will definitely equip you with all you need to keep the faith and not lose your religion.
All right, everybody, welcome back to ChurchMilitant.tv. We're now into the main part of our show. We're going to be talking about Medjugorje and, what's going on there. For the last 600 years, I think we've been having visions there, so we need to figure out, break these down and figure out what's going on. And probably, if not certainly one of the world's leading experts on this. Has written this book and has the Medjugorje Deception by E. Michael Jones, who is in studio with us right now. E. Michael Jones, how are you?
Michael Voris, good.
Talk to us, if you can, for a moment about just recently what has happened at the Vatican in relation to the alleged apparitions.
Cardinal Ruini has handed his report into the Vatican. The commission that was appointed by the Vatican has completed its report, and now it's been handed over. I thought it was supposed to be handed in a year ago, but it got delayed. But now the Vatican has the report, and so it's up to the discretion of the Pope what to do about it.
Okay, so here's a kind of an immediate question right out of the box. How can a report or how can an investigation be completed when the actual thing that's being investigated is still ongoing every day, multiple times?
The ongoing nature of the whatever it is, the alleged apparition, has nothing to do with the evaluation of its authenticity.
Okay.
This church established criteria in the 18th century. It was basically Benedict XIV who established criteria about evaluating private revelations as part of a bigger work about canonization of saints. How do you evaluate these things, and so on and so forth. And the criteria are very clear. If there's any evidence of lying, if there's any evidence of manipulation, there are two things that we're dealing with. They have to be evaluated the same way testimony in court would be evaluated. It's basically, there's nothing supernatural presumed about this thing. You just operate according to the criteria of evidence. And if something along these lines shows up, it's disqualified.
Do you think that there is, let's talk first of all about people who have gone to Medjugorje and they see all of this and they're very many of the people who go are very committed to this.
Right.
They say that they have, and there's no reason to doubt them, they say that they came back to the faith, or they had their faith enlivened, or they're in the middle of a spiritual crisis, and and this got them through it, and that sort of thing. Do you? Let's talk about them for a moment, because I don't want anybody to get the impression we're making fun of people who believe in Medjugorje. That's not the point of this show at all. It's to evaluate as objectively as we can the information that's presented as it's been presented by the seers and the people who support it at the site, not people who just go on a pilgrimage to it. So first, let's just talk about that. Do you think that, well, what do you make of the claims when people say, you guys shouldn't be knocking Medjugorje because you know what, there's all kinds of good fruits there?
Right. It's the good fruits argument.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I would like to say about that is the good fruits argument automatically eliminates the bad fruits. There are plenty of bad fruits out there. I have basically a whole book full of them there that you could talk about. Everything from marriages breaking up to sexual molestation of the pilgrimage to trafficking in spirits to civil war and people being killed by the country that was supposed to be under the sway of Our Lady Queen of Peace.
Do you think? I mean, that's quite a list of bad fruits.
A lot of bad fruits we could talk about, and none of them ever get brought up in any discussion from that point of view.
Well, okay, you say like, I mean, that's quite the charge. Human trafficking. Sorry, Michael. Human trafficking. When you say human trafficking, how are these alleged seers involved in human trafficking?
You have to make a distinction here between the seers and the people who are really controlling the apparition. The paradigm that I've talked about before is the Salem witch trials. Salem witch trials, there were children who were out doing something that they shouldn't be doing. They got caught and they concocted a story, and the story got legs the minute the minister said they're telling the truth. Same thing happened in Medjugorje. There are children out there. They may have been smoking. I don't know what they were smoking. One of them had the reputation of being the punk rocker from Sarajevo. But they got caught doing something. They were taken into the church. Jozo Zovko, who was the priest, examined them. The tape is there of his cross-examination. It's clear he doesn't believe them, but at some point, the priest said, this is true. And at that point, that's when the apparitions begin, because now you have the Franciscan order vouching for their credibility. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're talking about here. And so you also have to examine the lives of the people who were the real movers and shakers here, namely the Franciscans. And what you do when you look into that is you find all sorts of bad stuff. This is not me. This is not just my reporting. I reported it first. I'm the one who broke the story about Tomislav Vlasic, illegitimate child living in Bavaria. I'm the first guy to talk about that 25 years ago. It is now on the website of the Diocese of Mostar. Tomislav Vlasic, one of the two creators of Medjugorje, along with Jozo Zovko, has been defrocked. He was defrocked because he paid no attention to the suspension that had been posed on him years ago, and he was defrocked basically for sexually abusing pilgrims and trafficking in spirits.
This is a former priest.
Former Franciscan priest.
Right.
So that's what you have to add into the mix here, and not just focus on these children. Also when it comes to the messages, for example.
Well, let me ask you, we've got a thing up on the screen here that has some of the things that the either the seers stated or that our Blessed Mother is supposed to have said. Let's go through a couple of them here because they're really odd, and I don't think an awful lot of people who put stock in Medjugorje or wonder about its authenticity and sort of lean towards it. They may not know some of this stuff. For example, here's one. Now, many of these are from a book written by a Father Janko. I'm going to mess up his name, Bubalo. He says...
A supporter, by the way.
A supporter of it.
Somebody's trying to debunk it.
Yeah. This is a pro-Medjugorje guy priest saying, the seer, Mirjana, asked Our Lady to leave us a sign, and the hands of Mirjana's watch turned. Doesn't seem like such a fantastic miracle. In 1981, the seer stated that the Virgin had disappeared several times because people had trod on her veil. A couple months later, that evening during the apparition, those present followed one another in order to touch the veil, the head, the hand, the dress of the apparition. At the end, the Virgin seemed dirty and full of stains. A month later, Seer Vika, in her diary, writes, we questioned her, the Virgin, Our Lady, about the man who's, well, that's a big, long, blood-stained handkerchief. We'll skip over that because that needs a whole background. A couple months later, Jakoff asked the Virgin whether Dynamo, the soccer team from Zagreb, would win the title. This gave rise during the apparition to mad laughter on the part of the other seers. The Queen of Heaven, we are told by a supporter here, comes to Earth and gets annoyed because people are stepping on her veil. People are touching her somehow, although there's nothing material there to touch, and she's getting like mud smeared on her. I mean, again, this is at the very beginning. This is back in 1981. Should things like that not be a, red flag, ding, 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 if you're a Catholic going, what?
Sure. I mean, it's important to mention this was a supporter of Medjugorje who's printing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think you have to take into account the fact that in the beginning, the seers were speaking their own mind. They were actually speaking to people, and they would say one preposterous thing after another. And so what happened is, over a period of time, the Franciscans gradually took over the seers, and all of the so-called messages were coming through the Franciscans, who were vetted, had degrees in theology, and would simply eliminate the absurdities that you rightly pointed out in these beginning apparitions.
And I think you also give us, if you can, just for just a few seconds, give us the background, because you do need to understand the Franciscans, the context of this Franciscans versus the local bishop background of this. If you don't know that, some of this there's no canvas to paint the story on.
Right. There was a battle over jurisdiction of these parishes. The bishop wanted the parishes back. The Franciscans wanted to keep them in their hands, and it became a huge battle. The entire order was, this branch of the order was suspended. And this is the context in which you have to put the apparitions. There was a battle going on, and the Franciscans needed a club to beat the bishop. And what better club can you have than to say, well, the Blessed Mother has favored us with her presence. She obviously took our side in this battle, so the bishop is wrong and we're right. That's the context.
And this story makes no sense without that context. And I think a lot of people who are, perhaps sympathetic to or predisposed to the Medjugorje thing, because who doesn't want the Blessed Virgin Mary appearing and helping comfort her children? But that's not the issue. The issue is how, what is the context in which all of this happens? Yes. So we're going to move to a second section here. It says, Father Tomislav Vlasic says, do you feel the Virgin as she who gives graces, do you feel the Virgin as she who gives graces, or as she who prays to God? Now he's asking one of the seers this, and Vika says, as she who prays to God. There's a theological problem there, isn't there?
Yes.
Elaborate a little bit.
We're talking about the intercession here of the Blessed Virgin.
Right here, yeah. Do you see the Virgin when she appears to you as one who gives graces? That's sort of traditional Catholic doctrine. Or one who just prays to God? And she answers, she's just, she prays to God.
So she doesn't give the graces then? She's not the mediatrix of graces then?
Yeah, which flies right in the face of Catholic teaching. There's a few other
They're not
things.
Theologians. The kids are not theologians.
Yeah. And again, this was, when was this, 1984, so we're still, relatively early in the apparitions.
Yeah, we're very early along.
Another point here, the Virgin was accustomed to reciting the Our Father with the seers. Now, many of you may not realize this. This is a very interesting point. We stumbled across this in our research. So when Our Lady appears and she says prayers with the visionaries, the seers, she says the Our Father with them, they say. But the question is, how could Our Lady say, forgive us our trespasses, since she doesn't have any? At Lourdes, and here's a point, at Lourdes, Our Lady was very careful to keep her lips closed during all of the Our Fathers and, of course, the Hail Marys. She, our Blessed Mother, Queen of Heaven at Lourdes, only said the Glory Be when she was saying the Rosary. Another question here, Mirjana was asked a question, and she responded, one of the seers, I recently asked the Virgin this question, whether many souls are damned, and she told me that nowadays most souls go to purgatory. Now, that's a very curious thought, considering St. Augustine, St. Thomas. I mean, you can just go all over Catholic history, and practically every saint who ever said anything about it said most souls are damned.
Or the gospel, too.
And the gospel, sure. More go to hell than heaven. That's pretty clear.
The gate is narrow, and so on and so forth.
These are troubling things that a question like this would even come. One question, there's a whole list of them here. This one, most disturbing of all. Our Lady is purported to say, and this is very early in the apparitions, 1981, all religions are equal before God. Right away, if you're a Catholic, you got to say, wrap it up, throw it away. That is an absolute that is absolute heresy. There's no way the Mother of God would say that. The Mother who brought God to the world says all religions are the same. Well, then why did she have to say yes to bring God into the world? Absolute problem with that.
Right.
Why is there such devotion to this apparition, alleged apparition?
I think it's the flip side of the crisis in the church that took place beginning in the 60s. So you have this situation where everything seems up for grabs. You know, what are they going to change tomorrow? What can I believe? And people like these people step in and they say, basically, you can cut through all that stuff. Here's the direct message from God. Everything's okay. And I think they find solace in something like that. I got a letter to the editor once, and the guy said, things may be bad, but there's always Bayside. I mean, that's the dynamic that's at work here. So a fraud like Veronica Lucan can step in and say, you know, I know the way you feel, but the real explanation is that the real Pope Paul VI has been kidnapped. And here's pictures of his ears, and suddenly everybody heaves a kind of sigh of relief and say, now I understand. I think that's what these things provide. There's a vacuum in terms of authority in the church. There are all sorts of abuses that they know shouldn't be tolerated, and here comes the voice from heaven reassuring them and saying it's okay.
Yeah, really, it plays to an understandable psychological mindset among some people.
Yes.
They need to make sense of the chaos in the church. And if you look around on an earthly level, it's near impossible, unless you have to admit some pretty wicked, horrible things. And lots of people don't want to go there. They'd rather go over here because this has sort of the stamp of, the stamp of sort of the mystical and the spiritual and the safe haven sort of thing. You
eliminate the middleman.
Yeah.
Get right to the source. Everything's okay, and you feel better for a while anyway.
When you and I were talking before the show, we were saying that this whole thing. I mean, this is all on Pope Francis's desk now. So here it is. I mean, I don't know if it went to the CDF and then goes to him, but whatever. It's in his hands. What's the big picture here for Pope Francis? It's not just this is true or this isn't. There's much more context to this, isn't there?
Right.
From the Pope's perspective.
People like I would get emails from people saying, the Ruini Commission handed in this report. What are you going to do if they approve Medjugorje? And I responded by saying, the church will never approve Medjugorje. It is impossible. I will bet my last dollar on this thing. 2 bishops have condemned it. They are the first authority in this matter. The local bishops, both of them have condemned it as a fraud. The Yugoslavian Bishops' Conference refused to endorse it. Now the Diocese of Mostar has put stuff on the web about trafficking in spirits, about all of the sexual abuse that took place there. There's no way in the world the church can approve it. I guarantee you it's not going to happen. But the test for the Pope Francis's papacy is, are you going to do anything now? Because the strategy all along is not to get approval. The strategy is just leave us alone. Just don't say anything negative. Don't say anything at all. And that way we can go on making money. We can do a business as usual, and everybody will be happy. Now, if this happens again, it's a sign to me that Pope Francis is not in control of his own papacy.
And that was something many people said about Benedict also.
I think what you saw with Benedict, because of the resignation, was a failed papacy. And the failure was due to the fact that there were people running it, and the Pope wasn't one of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying the interests that are running Medjugorje are people, they had enough power to kill any negative statement. Mm-hmm. And for 30 years, and for various reasons. In the beginning, it was the anti-communist crusade. There was money laundering going on. Bishop Nilitzer was involved in that type of thing. The Bishop Perich, when I was there the last time, told me the Franciscans had so much money they started a bank of their own. Now you put this together, this financial money laundering, human trafficking that is rampant in a lawless place like Bosnia, and you understand, I think, the heart of the crisis that the Vatican is facing. And Benedict simply felt that he couldn't deal with it, and he resigned. Well, the question is now, is Francis going to be able to deal with it? And I think the first sign is, are you going to come up, are you going to release the statement, are you going to tell us something about Medjugorje?
There is, it's really a flashpoint. I mean, I don't think it's, to your point, I don't think it is as much specifically about Medjugorje, true or false, but all of the issues surrounding it. It's one of those very visible flashpoints. Certainly, members of the church, individual faithful who are, who are invested in things being good in the church. These people don't support, same-sex marriage. They don't like the idea of, bad priests and all of that. So this becomes sort of thunder on the right for the papacy, for Pope Francis, and it becomes a weapon by those on the left to actually control him and say,
right.
No, we're not going to do this.
And then you have to add in the Croatian situation, too, because it basically became the backbone of Croatian nationalist resistance to communism. Mm-hmm. And so it got implicated in the anti-communist crusade, and I think that's why Pope John Paul II never said anything about it.
Yeah.
I was there in 1988, spoke with Bishop Zonich.
Communism, for those of you who weren't alive or aren't very good at history, communism was still alive and breathing at that point.
Yeah, Tito had died 1 year before the apparitions began. There was this kind of vacuum. So I said to Bishop Zonich, Bishop Zonich said to me, I spoke with Cardinal Ratzinger, who was head of the CDF at that time. And I said, well, what did Cardinal Ratzinger say? He said, I agree with you. In other words, Ratzinger agreed with Zonich. And then Bishop Zonich says, and then I spoke to the Pope. And then I said, what does the Pope say? And he said, the Pope said nothing. So I think that what we're dealing with here is a man, namely Pope John Paul II, who was really committed to the overthrow of communism. And Medjugorje was basically the anti-communist crusade in Croatia. So it was this political effect, this political machination that became, Medjugorje got caught up in.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to show you a video, rather remarkable video, of one of the apparitions. And we'll just leave it hanging there, and we'll come right back after this commercial break. And this video, you don't want to miss.
ChurchMilitant.tv would not be where it is today without the support of our many premium subscribers.
Please consider becoming a premium subscriber today for just $10 a month.
Your monthly subscription helps us to continue our critical work for the church in her desperate hour of need.
If you're already a premium subscriber, we encourage you to sign up your friends and your family.
Or even fellow parishioners who need to see the truth and beauty of the Catholic Church in a fresh way.
Sign up today.
And may God bless you.
Welcome back, everybody, to ChurchMilitant.tv. Our topic tonight, Medjugorje Madness. Madness of Medjugorje. This book, The Medjugorje Deception, by our guest, E. Michael Jones. First of all, I mean, you're not going to find probably a more extensive tome on this. Everything Michael writes is a tome because he knows so much information. But would you still say this is kind of the expert book that you want to know something?
Certainly about the beginning, certainly about the involvement with the war, the history, the background of where the apparitions came from, what the Franciscans were doing. Yeah, I think nothing has changed.
Alrighty, so people can get this on your website, right?
Right, culturewars.com.
Culturewars.com. Click on Get the Medjugorje Deception. You have a special, since E. Michael is on tonight. He will actually pay you to get the book. No, I'm joking.
You will pay.
I'm sure I will. But when in Catholic Church history, sacred history, when somebody is having an apparition, physically seeing with their eyes, not just a thought or some form, warm and fuzzy feel good internally, when they are actually seeing before their eyes something of heaven, the Blessed Virgin, angels, etc. When that is going on, a person oftentimes goes into ecstasy and becomes totally unaware of everything around them. They are so focused on the supernatural that the natural world, they just, immaterially, they escape. So we want to roll a video here for you and show you something that happened. You can actually just listen to it. It's narrated very well. It's about a 3-minute video. And for people who support Medjugorje and actually believe what is being said here, this is a very difficult case to get around. Watch the video. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
When they see the Virgin Mary, the visionaries claim that they are totally disconnected from the environment, that they don't hear other people, that they don't see other people, that they are completely concentrated on the apparition of the Virgin Mary.
Every week, the Virgin is said to appear to the young visionaries at a Friday service. Mélanger set up his camera and sat back to watch.
Now, they made the sign of the cross, and they begin the prayer, Our Father, and during that prayer, suddenly there is the beginning of the ecstasy. They kneel down, and they are in contact with the Virgin Mary.
If they're truly in ecstasy, nothing should distract the children. But suddenly, to Bélanger's later amazement, an onlooker called Jean-Louis jabbed his hand towards Witska on the right.
At the moment of filming, I did not see that. Just afterwards, I saw that there was a commotion in the chapel. Everybody was disturbed because Witska had reacted. Jean-Louis made a threat gesture against the eyes of Witska, towards the eyes of Witska, and she reacted. And it was for Jean-Louis an important disappointment.
Still frames from Bélanger's video at the moment of the hand lunging at Witska show her clearly recoiling from the jabbing fingers.
Then the fingers of Jean-Louis are going back. Still no reaction from Witska. A slight reaction, closing of her eyes. And then on the next picture, you have the spectacular movement of the face of Witska. She is reacting, going back. After the ecstasy, I had forgotten to stop the camera, and suddenly Witska comes in with somebody else.
She wanted to explain why she'd moved. In her trance, she'd been trying to prevent the Virgin from dropping the infant Jesus.
So she said, when I arrived in the chapel, and everything was okay. When the ecstasy began, I saw nobody, and I heard nobody, except the Virgin Mary. And the Virgin Mary had the infant Jesus in her arms. And suddenly, I thought, said Witska, that the infant Jesus would fall on the floor. So to impeach that, I made a gesture to impeach the infant Jesus to fall on the floor. And she thought that it would explain the reaction that she had against the threat gesture made by Jean-Louis.
That Our Lady was going to drop the baby Jesus. I mean, this moves from questionable to just absurd at this point.
Well, the whole point of this is not so much the beginning where she flinches. Okay, if they just left it at that, you maybe could have gotten by it, but they have to come out and give you this cockamamie explanation about what happened. There's nothing more damning than what they said, like this preposterous type of thing. So why did they have to say that? Why isn't this brought up in conversations when you're talking about the authenticity of the thing? The point is that there are certain groups of people that make money from it, and it's not in their interest to bring up any conflicting evidence. And again, the situation perdures here of where is the church? Yeah. Why is it that the two local bishops have condemned that they are the authority? Why isn't the church said that's the end of the story? But something has happened here. So to get back to this comment about the failed papacy, I mean, what am I saying here? That everything he did was wrong? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying basically that he resigned. And the fact that he resigned was because he could not bring certain forces under control. And I am saying that Medjugorje epitomizes these forces, both when it comes to sexual trafficking and when it comes to money laundering. The two things that the Vatican is struggling with.
Do you think there is a, well, when we look at this and say, okay, this may be the flashpoint for Pope Francis. Again, symbolically as well as real. Who are these forces in the Vatican that, what's their motivation? I mean, it all sounds very conspiracy theory and all of this. What's really going on? What's happening in the Vatican? We've done a lot of reporting on this, but I'll let you answer.
Well, they are involved in money laundering. There was a Monsignor that was caught trying to fly to Switzerland with $25 million in his briefcase. Early on, Bishop Nilica from Slovakia, was arrested by the Italian police for buying Roberto Calvi's briefcase. We're going back to the time when America got involved in the funding of Solidarity and all of these revolutionary movements in Eastern Europe, and how the money got
against
transferred around against communists. The last phase of the anti-communist crusade, Medjugorje was part of it, and Medjugorje benefited, I think, from these transactions, and that set them up as money launderers. I mean, they started a bank. Bishop Peric is the one who pointed out the bank to me. They're taking money. Huge amounts of hard currency are coming into Yugoslavia. Where's the money going? Well, we don't know. I mean, if there's one place where the law has a tenuous hold over a country, it's Bosnia-Herzegovina, both before and after the war. And I'm saying that these are the forces, I think, this inability, this lack of financial transparency, the sexual corruption. These are the forces that are paralyzing the church right now, that paralyzed the papacy of Benedict, and Medjugorje is intimately connected with both of them.
As we look at some of these things right here and say, okay, that wasn't those comments of Our Lady was about to drop the baby Jesus. Those are not coming from people opposed to the apparition. That's coming from one of the seers, the one who blinked when you went like that.
Right.
You have to ask the question, okay, if you'd have walked up to Lucy or Jacinta or Francesca and gone like blah into their face while Our Lady was there, would they have reacted? No, they wouldn't have. As a matter of fact, there's one of the guys did that in a doctor, I believe it was, did something to Bernadette, Saint Bernadette at Lourdes, like physically did something to her, put a needle in her skin or something. Not a reaction at all. So this becomes questionable. And then, as you say, to come out with a story that, what? Come on. You have to practically abandon the Catholic faith to advance and support the notion that the Mother of God is dropping the baby Jesus. It's pathetic. But if that isn't enough, okay, if you go to Medjugorje.com, we've got it on the screen right here. This is the site for Medjugorje right here. This isn't somebody who's opposed to it. This isn't, some people working against it. It's their site right there. I want to read you one of the lines that was supposedly said in an apparition by our Blessed Mother. This was during Ivanka's last daily apparition. The Queen of Peace told her on May 7th, 1985, quote, no one in the world had the grace which you, your brothers and sisters have received. I want to read that again to you. No one in the world has had the grace which you, your brothers and sisters have received. If that's the Queen of Heaven saying that, the Mother of God, I hope she's excluding herself. Nobody received more grace than our Blessed Mother. And you think even if you were to somehow exclude the Mother of God from that, are you telling me that these children, these seers, all of them received more grace than Padre Pio, St. Thomas Aquinas?
Well, we'll get the grace meter out. I don't know. They must have a grace meter over there.
What an odd thing for the Mother of God to say.
It gets worse. It gets worse. Maria Pavlovich, now Lunetti, had an apparition in which the Blessed Mother endorsed this mixed-sex charismatic community that Tomislav Vlasic had set up with Agnes Heupel in Italy. Okay? The Blessed Mother endorsed the community. Okay? It turns out I sent a reporter over there when I wrote the first book, Medjugorje, The Untold Story, and showed her the evidence that I had uncovered about Vlasic's past and his illegitimate child and so on and so forth, getting a nun pregnant. The reporter showed it to her just as she came out, She looked at it. She got the shocked look on her face. She jumped in the car and drove away. Next day, she writes a memo in which she says that what I said about Tomislav Vlasic, Agnes Heupel, and the community is not true. But I said it because they pressured me to say it. That's the whole story right there.
And you attributed it to the Mother of God.
You put words in the mouth of the Blessed Mother. You admitted that you lied, and you admitted that you lied because someone pressured you to do it. That's the whole story.
That is the story.
That's it. That's according to the criteria established by Benedict XIV. It automatically is illegitimate. It's not to be believed. It is not credible.
Here's another comment that is, again, these are all written by supporters. In God, this is the Blessed Mother supposedly talking, in God there are no divisions or religions. It is you and the world who have created divisions. Each one's religion must be respected, and you must preserve yours for yourselves and for your children. It is you who are divided on earth, and get this, the Muslims and the Orthodox, like the Catholics, are equal before my son and before me, for you are all my children. Talk about a soap opera, all my children. Michael, can you respond to that? Muslims, Catholics, and Orthodox are all equal before God.
I mean, what is the point of going into this deep theological discussion about something that the kids just kind of blurted out?
Yeah.
And in the early days of the apparition, these people were either honest or stupid enough to write down what they actually blurted out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what you can go through list after list of absurd things that they said, but over the course of time, they've all gone down the memory hole, you know, and so they were taken over by the Franciscans, who then would make sure that they didn't say anything like that. So you're right. There's no point in debating these things. They're preposterous.
There is another, I don't know even how you say this, an issue. I mean, Pope Francis said, when it was like a few months ago or something, he made a comment that sort of, you know, people trying to read the tea leaves of what does the Pope think about Medjugorje, made a comment not specifically about Medjugorje, but certainly you can't think for a moment that it wasn't in his mind when he said it, that, you know, Our Lady isn't a postman, or what did he say?
Yeah, postmistress.
Yeah, just popping in all over the place.
Right. That bodes well, I think, for the Ruini Commission. I don't think he's favorably disposed toward that. I don't think he has an investment in it in the way that, let's say, John Paul II had in terms of bringing communism down. And these were people, and he didn't want to betray people on his side in the anti-communist crusade. That's all in the past now. So that's a good sign.
Do you think when the when news broke that the Ruini Commission had handed in its report to the Vatican, within hours, immediately things were being spun? And it does not say that it's not supernatural, and all of that sort of leaked out into the press. It's almost like trying to grease the skids and kind of, you know, tip the opinion or the position of the Vatican with regard to it, or grease the skids so that you can say, well, you can't come out and say it's not supernatural because all of these people believe it. After all, we said it. So this is sort of the way agenda games are played in the Vatican, aren't they? Something happens and someone rushes to a microphone or leaks some version of something because they want to prepare the way for it.
Sure.
Do you think that there is a how would you say it? A concerted effort to undermine the papacy of Francis to keep all of these things exactly as they are, what you described earlier?
Absolutely. There are certain people who are benefiting from the status quo. I think Benedict's resignation was a sign that the status quo has become intolerable and that he could not solve that problem. Francis was elected to solve the problem that Benedict could not solve. The non-statement, the silence, the toleration of Medjugorje emanating from the Vatican is the prime sign of the problem that they had. The fact that they could not act on something this obvious, they could not bring themselves, meant that there were powerful forces there protecting it. That's what I think this means. That's why I said that it's going to be a sign of whether Francis really can take control of the Vatican or not. If he can come out with a statement, if he can give a clear signal, because as of now, the Vatican simply has not given a clear signal on this.
And hasn't Cardinal Schönborn from Vienna? He's come out and sort of given his blessing, such as it is, to
Yeah,
the
and then
entire thing, right?
He was reprimanded by the Pope, and then he issued a kind of mock apology to Bishop Perich for his denigrating comments about the fellow bishop who was the authority in that diocese. It was very unseemly, kind of embarrassing. But Schönborn is a big promoter of Medjugorje, there's no question.
And to kind of stir the pot a little bit here, Schönborn is the sort of the major force behind the new catechism. I mean, he didn't write the whole thing.
I think it's like the Medjugorje conference at Notre Dame. There's a kind of symbiosis here between the heretics and the lunatics, you know, because in a sense they divide up the church and they both leave each other alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the heretics are happy. Yeah, sure, you guys, okay, you can have that. And they're just happy if no one bothers them in their collective delusions. As long as the money flows, that's okay. And so that's the standoff that we've reached in the church. No unity, no coherence, but a kind of standoff.
You know, speaking of the Medjugorje conference that happens every year at Notre Dame, you know, Notre Dame, of course, has this, you know, reputation as a big liberal, you know, which it is, you know, heretical this, baby killer comes, you give them awards, and et cetera. So when people who are, you know, on the right, so to speak, in the church and are predisposed to some degree of orthodoxy and they believe in the Virgin Mary and all that, go and have a conference at Notre Dame, well, it looks like Notre Dame's swinging back, doesn't it?
Right. They're broad-minded. They allow these people. Well, this is no threat to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It doesn't address it. It coexists side by side. Twin manias, twin delusions, just totally opposite. And the one is the opposite of the other in a kind of dialectic. I mean, you can go back to the beginning of it. A guy like Dennis Nolan, for example, who was one of the major Medjugorje promoters, was a student at Notre Dame. A student of Father Burchell who denied one doctrine after another.
Yep.
And poor Dennis...
I had Father Burchell for class.
Well, you know what I'm talking about then. So you've got this blatant heresy being promoted, and a poor guy like Dennis Nolan who just can't get his arms around what's going on, and so he just bails out and says, I don't need this. I have the Holy Spirit. It was the charismatic movement at that point.
Yeah, the People of Praise community.
People of Praise. Yeah. It's in Kevin Ranahan's book. You people have reason, but we have faith. Well, wait a minute. The Catholic Church is faith and reason.
Yeah.
But they bifurcated this thing, and that's the dialectic. You know, the heretics, the professors say, well, we have reason, and they say we have faith, and they're both wrong.
Yeah. You know, I on the conference at Notre Dame, I think it was this past October, maybe September, somewhere in that time frame, that... to show some more of sort of the further ridiculousness of this here, they had scheduled the conference, and one of the seers, I can't remember who it was kind of come into normally the basketball arena at Notre Dame, and you know they had scheduled Our Lady to appear at 8:00 in an apparition, and then all of a sudden the university finds out about this like a day or two, you know, beforehand, and says, wait a minute, there's a basketball game going on there at 8:00. You have to be out of there before 8:00. So conveniently, they just rescheduled the apparition for an hour or two earlier. I mean, what? This is just so, you don't even want to say anti-Catholic. It's just so non-Catholic. It's laughable. It really is. And then with the background of what you helped bring out here is, you
could have asked the Blessed Mother who was going to win the game, and then you could have placed a bet, you know, so it would have been worth your while. You might have made back the money you invested in the admission ticket to the conference.
Do you think that there is one last question? Where do you see, obviously not predicting what Francis is going to do, but the Holy Father is going to do, but where do you see all of this going? What does this say for the state of affairs in the church right now? This is 1981. I mean, this is 30 plus years going on now. What does all of this mean? Where are we as a church right now when this is kind of one of the headline grabbing things, at least in one part of the church?
It's the vacuum of authority that led to the Medjugorje apparitions in the first place. All of these dissatisfied people. The women, I said once before, every time the bishop placates the feminists, he sends a busload or a plane load of people over to Medjugorje, plane load of women over to Medjugorje, people voting with their feet, people wanting to put down their money and buy a spiritual experience. And St. John of the Cross says, the devil rejoices when people seek private revelations. one of the great mystics of the church. That's what he said, because they're so easy to counterfeit. And that's what you got. It ended up being a consumer item that led to demons infesting the whole place.
It so speaks to some of the miserable condition the church is in right now. You don't know whether to laugh or cry. You really don't. We have a caller on the line here. This is John from Texas, who has a question on some citations in your book here. John, are you there? Hello, John, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you put on your headsets there for a second? Hold on, Michael putting on his headsets. Okay, John, go ahead and ask your question, please. We got just a couple seconds left.
Okay. Well, first, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
This question is directed to Mr. Jones. First, let me say thank you, Mr. Jones, for your book, The Medjugorje Deception. I'm calling, however, to ask you about a criticism that is often levied against this book. You have many sources in it and provide a bibliography at the end. However, the book itself, there are no footnotes or page numbers, and this makes following your argument difficult. And I was wondering if you would please respond to this criticism. And in addition to the above, I want to follow up with a comment that was made earlier on the program. Mr. Jones, you said that Pope Benedict XVI's pontificate was a failed pontificate. This comment passed by without comment or contestation, and I would just like to know if you would please explain this statement. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Book first.
And Second question first. Failed pontificate. He failed to bring the forces that were thwarting Benedict's ability to govern under control. He quit. The fact that he quit was a sign of the failure. That's what I'm talking about. First question, citations. I quit. When I got involved in doing this, I quickly realized there is no point in citing these things, because a lot of the stuff is Medjugorje newsletters, a lot of stuff is private interviews. It just didn't seem appropriate for this book in terms of the standard way I footnote, let's say, the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit or any of these other books. When you deal with this material, you're dealing with material that is oftentimes published in newsletter form. It's oftentimes anecdotal. The footnotes style just didn't apply to it. That's why I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's not one of the things that if you're going to do sort of follow-up research, you could go to the sources.
I can't give you like the Medjugorje newsletter from Oshkosh in 1987 or something like that, because you can't get it. You can't go to the library and get it anyway. It's not online. Nothing was online when I wrote this book, so that's why I did it that way.
That's it. E. Michael Jones, ladies and gentlemen, with the Medjugorje Deception. You can go to his website, culturewars.com, and read this and keep an eye. Now you have enough background, I think, to be able to sort of follow and understand some of the things. And one of the reasons we have so many very good guests and well-informed guests on here is to help you, the viewer, our followers and other people who follow other places, and there's some overlap, be able to look out over the vast expanse which the church is and really get a grasp on, here are the times that we are in right now. So a lot of these different things that happen, they seem to be unconnected, but they're all connected. I mean, nothing's going on in the church that's not connected to something else going on in the church. Why? Because you've got heaven, who established the church, and hell trying to destroy it. So, of course, everything is going to be connected and be meaningful and have some great significance to it, even when it appears as though it may not. So, E. Michael, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Hope to have you back on soon. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to. Good. I'd like to say a wrap up here with everybody. We're going to be we'll be in the Philippines next week, doing some reports there on the condition of the church, the Filipino Bishops Conference, trying to fight the Obama jam down their throat contraception legislation and funding that's going on, international Planned Parenthood money, as well as doing some follow-up reports from the typhoon victims. We're going to go to some of the places that have been devastated. A lot of people have actually forgotten about, and sort of bring them back to people's memories. So we'll be gone all next week. We will, however, have a pre-recorded show here next week talking about the homosexual agenda in the world of politics and how they are actually getting much of their shall we say, agenda funded and pushed through simply because of a small number of very, very, very wealthy gay backers. So we do hope you'll join us for that. It'll be pre-recorded, but it's very much worth the watch. So if you can join us here with a prayer to St. Michael, and we will wrap up and say goodbye, and we will see you next week on churchmilitant.tv, mic'd up. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us. Immaculate Heart of Mary, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. God love you.